Scarves and Spikes.
Welcome in, everybody. It is another episode of Scarves and Spikes. I freaked out a little because my internet literally died in the intro. So I panicked first time in over a year that's ever happened. But I'm here. I made it. Henry is our special guest today alongside Sydney, as usual, taking the place of Tommy, who is on the beach somewhere in Miami, by the way. What's going on, y'all?
It's going. Excited for it's good to get a win on Sunday. I mean, it's a little bit of a tough go at some points, but good to have what we're calling a Wednesday or winning Wednesday, what have you.
Wednesday,
but Tommy's not here, as he mentioned. He'll probably pop in a little bit later on to hang out with us for a bit. But yeah, good to be with you guys as always.
Henry, what about you,
Henry,
buddy?
what's new in your world?
No, I mean it's really good to be on the show again. Really nice to talk to you guys always. I don't know if me filling in for Tommy means I have to be like slightly edgier with my takes, go on a rant or, make stupid jokes or something like that, or get mad at people who say Miguel Berry in the chat. Y'all let me know.
Get on a soapbox and just go off on something.
Yeah. Get mad at execute the Jurgen Damm swear jar.
Right.
But no, it's nice to talk, especially after a big win. And, we got some news to talk about today, a great guest. So yeah, that's pulling y'all.
So with that, we have a busy one today, and timing is going to be a little bit different. Main thing is we have a very special guest from MLS Season Pass and CBS Sports Golazo on with us, Callum Williams. He'll be on a little bit closer to the 8 o'clock hour. And we have a giveaway of our Resurgence scarf. So you have a little bit of time to go enter and make us do work behind the scenes to add you to the Wheel of Fortune.
Well, I should add, if you're listening to the podcast after the fact, you're out of time because we just
sorry, guys.
At this point.
Yeah, if you're watching live, go do it now. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. So, but yeah, we have a lot going on, and other quick little bit of housekeeping. We had our show a couple of weeks ago for the home opener at the Signia Hotel, the Nest on 4 Bar. It was great turnout. Had a lot of fun. Had a lot of people there. We had a great time. We're going to be doing another one actually for the She Believes Cup on April 6th. So keep an eye on the show, social media. We'll get you guys all the details and everything else, but we're going to have fun because the She Believes Cup is set to break, I think, some records, and it'll be, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think I made this up, the first time the U.S. of any team has played in Atlanta. Is that
Since
right?
2016, when they played, U.S. women played the Netherlands at the Georgia Dome.
At the Dome. Okay.
Yeah. So that's the last time.
That's ancient history.
U.S. senior national team. The last time the senior U.S. national team has played in Atlanta, but excited to see that, kind of the run up to the Olympics. That was announced as well earlier on Wednesday. So U.S. paired with either Zambia or Morocco Germany and Australia in Group B in the Olympics. Really a group of death there, if we're being honest. But just really disappointing results for them. They went out of the group stage in the World Cup last year, were bronze medalists in the 2020 Olympics and 2021, the COVID Olympics in Japan. So really a program with maybe a chip on his shoulder with Emma Hayes coming in, but she'll not be in the technical area. It will be Twyla Kilgore, the interim head coach for She Believes Cup. So that'll be taking place again April 6th, and again will be at the Signate by Hilton, the Nest on 4, right across from the Benz, right across the backyard from the Benz. So excited for that. Again, as Tyler said, look for our socials, look for more information on that as the time draws near.
So, really quick plug, where can everybody go read about the draw and other Atlanta United news, Sydney?
At scarfsandspikes.com.
There you go. There you go.
Funny you asked that.
We have a website?
Apparently.
Allegedly we do. I don't know.
It's crazy. It's breaking news.
Quite a few people that have found a spot on our little corner of the web, which, being big-headed for a moment, isn't so little anymore. So there you go.
Yeah, we're growing every day. So scarfsandspikes.com.
We appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And patreon.com/scarfsandspikes as well. Definitely appreciate your support, those that support us through Patreon. So thank you for that.
Yep.
I'm hearing like a rustling noise in the background. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, that's my dog, Nala. She's like super okay. Yeah. She's just kind of here. I'm gonna actually let her out. So
I was gonna say, is this a show and tell dog? And we had Kevin Egan's children on the show at one point.
we'll make it the $20 Patreon tier. I get to
exactly.
And ask me anything.
Right, exactly.
All right, so
anyway,
you do what you got to do. By the way, you do what you got to do. So, but yes, we have a game to talk about, and then another game to talk about. We have post Orlando Purple Team, other acronyms that I can't say yet on the show because it's not late enough, but 2-0 win over Orlando this past weekend in a really, really odd feeling game, but it's a 2-0 win. It's a Derby Day rivalry, whatever we want to call it. Sydney, what was it? What was it to you?
I mean, depending on who you ask, I mean, it wasn't a pretty match. And we had a chance to hear from Brad Guzan in the locker room. We had a chance to hear from Gonzalo Pineda, of course, after the match. Actually, before I do that, we got a special guest. It's not Callum Williams, but
not yet.
It's one better. It's Tommy Moose joining us from Miami. Tommy,
how's the scouting of Messi going?
Sorry, I'm late. Welcome to Scarves and Spikes, everybody. Tommy here with Sydney, Tyler, and is that me without a beard? I can't tell.
You're hilarious.
Dude, that or your child. I'm not sure.
It's McClovin.
Yeah.
Come on.
So everybody, join the Patreon. Have you guys already done all this?
Yeah, we did that.
Oh.
What are you sipping on?
I've been a little bit of everywhere. I've been in some beaches. I hung out with the Battered Herons group. They took me out on the town. I drove in my first Tesla.
Very nice.
I couldn't figure out how to open the door. Like, apparently that's the thing. Like, there's no door handle. Like, you have to push it in. It's crazy. Technology, right? I'm old. I don't know how to open doors.
So real quick, and I won't take up too much time. I got kind of detained at the U.S.-Canadian border years ago in the Tesla because I couldn't figure. I couldn't figure out how to open the trunk, so I got kind of detained. They had to figure out how to open it, and I mean it was nothing bad, but yeah, eventually figured out.
First time we've heard this story.
So no, that's a $50 Patreon, but no, that's the extent of the story. So that's my kind of Tesla tale. But Tommy, in one word, describe the Orlando match.
Woohoo! That's one word.
It's maybe hyphenated depending on what state you live in.
Will out.
Yeah, I mean, it was a gritty performance. I think that's something that you would say, and I think that'd be a game where you probably still go up 1-0, but you blow the lead at the end, right? Like you're just waiting for Orlando to score that goal and to make it 1-1, and it didn't happen. They end up fighting through it. I mean, they had the missed chance where Amada didn't pass it to Giakoumakis, or he did pass it to Giakoumakis when he should have been selfish. But they end up, finally getting that second goal with the Giakoumakis bomb, and they get the win. And I think that's something that we're going to be saying a lot this year. Is last year you would expected them to lose in whatever position it was, and they're able to hopefully grind out that win, or not blow the lead, from there. But now the important thing is, so we've been talking about it. Okay, making sure you do good at home and not blow leads. Check. But now you got to win on the road, and this probably isn't the game for that. But once this team gets back to health, or not back to health, well, I guess you got one person, hurt. But once you get the guys back in the town from international break, that's when you hit your next road game, which I think is it New York? Do they go to New York?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's like when they get to New York, if they can win that game, then you're saying, okay, this is a different Atlanta United team than last year. Because that's like really the only thing that we really need to prove right now, right? I mean, only 2 goals allowed in, 3 games?
Yeah.
It's pretty damn good.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take it all day. Jared asked, trying to figure out why you're wearing flannel at the beach, Tommy.
Yeah, why are you wearing a flannel at the beach?
I got back from dinner, and I ran upstairs, grabbed my AirPods, and came down to the pool.
Did you eat Messi's pizza place?
No, but I ate some really damn good pizza out here. There was some really good pizza. But yeah, I just figured I'd stop by and say hi.
Did you drink pop with it?
The South and this pop thing is really aggravating because Tyler, you yelled at me. And then the Battered Herons group, they're like, what would you like to drink? And I'm like, oh, I'll have a pop. And then the whole world just stopped and like everybody stared at me. And like, okay, so what do you call a Sprite then? Is so I understand. Okay, a Pepsi is a Coke.
Sprite.
Okay, but what is a Sprite?
See, depending on what parts of the country you live in, that's the Coke. They call it Coke. Don't shoot the messenger.
It's
but
litten on the can. It says Coke and Sprite and root beer. Is a root beer a root beer?
Product.
And then Pepsi's just a Coke ripoff.
Okay, then what is a Mountain Dew? Is that a Coke?
No, it's unrelated.
It's some parts of the country, so it is.
Coke cousin.
Oh man.
Those
people in Ohio are sheltered, I guess.
Yeah.
Apparently, yeah.
Down here, you'll get educated.
By the way, and you probably all know this, Miami is not the South.
I mean, it's like the Caribbean.
Pretty much. It's more Caribbean than South, but...
I mean, it's souther than...
Yeah. Technically. Yeah.
That's getting into...
Geographically speaking.
That's a Patreon episode. That's getting into some real funny
AMA.
terminology.
No, the things I saw on the beach were Patreon and OnlyFans. Jeez. Anyways...
Say no more.
Are you having a great time, Tommy?
I'm having a great time. I have one more day here. Our conference ended that I'm down here for, and the guy I'm with didn't want to go home right away because the flight's at like 9:00. He didn't want to rush, so I'm here all the way until 9:00 tomorrow. And then I fly home to 3 inches of snow.
Yeah,
that sucks.
Yeah.
All right, so I know you only have a certain amount of time. We're gonna get to Toronto later, but how does this go for Atlanta?
I think I said on Spaces last week or Sunday was that the most important group or player that was going to be from the previous game was Williams and Gregerson being both there together to be able to, if they can grind out a 0-0 draw or maybe a 1-1 draw, that would be it. And now losing Gregerson and then you don't have a Brom, now you're into Cobb zone, and the problem with him is he just keeps getting thrown into these games where there's like half the team's missing. Like that was his first game, I think last year was in Columbus, right?
Yep. Not his fault. And
I
Noah was
understand.
one of the best preseason players by far.
I asked Pineda that when I was in Columbus. What do you ask after you lose 6-1? I was like, oh, what you think of Cobb? It's really hard to grade him, in this performance. Yeah, anybody.
Yeah,
just give everybody the bad stamp. But I don't know. I mean, it's got to be Cobb. Cobb's got to come in and link up with Williams very quickly this week, and they've got to grind out a 0-0 draw or maybe a 1-1. If they score 2 goals, I don't see us winning. I just don't. Is that fair? I know you're very well, Tyler. You've been yelling at me all week because I was predicting a loss. And I think
so.
Henry, you were with me, right? Didn't you say that you were?
Yeah, I ended up predicting a 2-1 loss. I want to see this team do a bit more on the road before I give them the benefit of the doubt, especially with all the players missing. Total, you're going to have 7 players missing, 6 on international. You're giving me a yellow card?
Yes, both.
Why are you giving me a yellow card? Why?
Because they're negative. Negative.
It's not gonna be.
I got yelled at for being a homer last year.
Needlessly negative, but
I think we got yelled at for being homers at once. Like there was a comment I remember on YouTube that said, "These guys are homers." Well, I'm not being a homer. I don't feel good about this game.
I mean, it's also in the name.
I've lived it. I've lived this game before. Okay, I lived with Miguel Berry starting. I've lived with Miguel Berry starting that game and then not knowing who he is because he got a tan. Okay, I didn't know who he was. All right, but he wasn't good that game. Nobody was good in that game. Not a single person. And I think Brooks was the only one that scored a goal in that game.
Yep.
It was like the consolation goal.
Yep.
To the rebel forces. Yeah. No. It's. Oh, man, I just can't deal with this game. Another one of these games again. International games suck for us. It's just the way it is.
Keep the faith, Tommy.
To my knowledge, I don't think there are any theme nights going on this week at BMO Stadium, BMO Field. Well, I feel like it's always poutine night up there.
Oh,
but
that sounds great.
Outside of that, I don't think there are any like theme nights or like Star Wars night or Harry Potter night or anything like that. I mean, if we find out, we'll of course report back and let you all know. But to my knowledge, none of that is happening.
It's Ryan Reynolds night.
Ryan Reynolds night.
Welcome everybody to Celine Dion and Alanis Morissette night here at what's the stadium?
BMO Field.
BMO Field.
And special guest at halftime, Avril Lavigne. I'm running out of Canadian people. Help. Deadpool. It's Deadpool night here.
Right.
Hey, that'd be cool.
That's it. Alex Trebek, RIP. Any hockey player, essentially.
It's Wayne Gretzky night here at BMO Field. Well, I'll let you guys. I didn't mean to sneak in, but I figured I'd come say hi, and you guys got some time before your guest comes in.
You're welcome anytime, Tommy.
Well, thank you. I mean, be gentle with this boy next to me. Be gentle with him. Don't do the initiation you guys did to me. It was rough.
Yeah, we'll skip that with Henry.
Yeah, skip that. It's good.
Okay, Tommy, have fun in my.
What? All right, I could kick my legs up here and stay for another 30. But no, I think my prediction was 2-0 Toronto. Unfortunately.
Dang, Tommy.
But this is why you need your wins when you get them, and this is why winning against Orlando was so important.
Yeah.
And then you got Chicago after that, and we're back to Abram days, boys. We're back to Abram days.
I don't know about that, but
I mean, you think Gregersson's going to heal from an Achilles injury in like a week? Not Achilles, a knee. Sorry, a meniscus.
But
potato.
A fast injury. Like he's going to be out for a few weeks, probably.
We'll see. Yeah.
See, my son over here told me is backing me up here.
Gosh.
Beardless Tommy.
Same colors.
No beard, Tommy.
Yes, yeah. I wore the colors. I know someone always yells at me for not wearing a jersey on here. I didn't bring one with me, but I wore the colors.
Well,
I got to go find the hotel bar.
Drink a mojito for me. Have fun.
A mojito?
Yes.
Isn't that the mint stuff?
Yeah, it's the best cocktail known to man.
I don't have a red card, but I have my hotel card up.
That's a blue card.
A blue card or a black card.
Yeah, the blue card. So there you go.
Whatever. I'm not.
You're in
going
timeout. You're in timeout for. Was that what it was? You were in timeout. You were supposed to be in like timeout for like a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's dumb, stupid.
They put you in the timeout corner.
R.I.P. blue card.
Right.
All right. Well, you guys have fun and good. And I'll enter to win the scarf.
Okay.
Thanks, Tommy. You're not eligible, but feel free.
Bye, Tommy.
My bad.
You do it anyway, though.
He's just so quick to get rid of me. Jeez. All right. Bye, guys.
So we'll see you.
See you soon.
Henry, what did you think? Look, I'm not even gonna give a transition. We're gonna act like it didn't happen.
Like this never happened.
Cold switch over.
Roll the intro.
We'll cut it from the. We'll cut it.
Can we edit this?
No, I'm kidding, Tommy. If you're listening later on, I'm kidding. We love you. Yeah, we love you. Much love. Much love.
But now we have your younger version here, and I'm going to ask him, what did you think of the Orlando game overall?
I thought it was a fun game. I thought it wasn't the cleanest game, obviously. You had a few individual performances that just weren't doing it. Particularly, I think Almada was the most obvious one. A few misplaced passes, just some wrong decisions made at times. He just didn't have the kind of danger that he typically has, right? And I'm not sure what to attribute that to. I mean, everyone's entitled to have a bad day every now and then. I'm not sure if for him it was that, or it was like him feeling the pressure to have to perform to get to where he wants to go, right? He needs to shine, right? He's the star of the team, so he needs to do a bit more, and he was trying to do a bit more, and a bit too much more. There's a quote from Johan Cruyff that I like to. That it's just like soccer is simple, but playing simple soccer is the hardest thing to do, and I think that really applies to technical players like Almada. He has the ability to, dribble, and take out 3-4 defenders. But sometimes the best decision is to, just take your shot, man, or pass the ball, or, do something else. And I think when he gets that right, you're going to see more possibilities for those $25-30 million offers that LA United is looking for. But getting back to the Orlando game, obviously, Gigi, goal and an assist, great job from him. I think the back line held very solid. I think it's ironic that we were talking about this as kind of, a weird game. And it ended up being the team's first clean sheet this season. A clean sheet that is very valuable to Pineda. He's repeated that several times. So no, I think that's very encouraging. Obviously, it's not great to have Stian Gregerson out. He proved to be pretty important these first 3 games. But hopefully that gives a chance for Noah Cobb to kind of show how far he's come from last season. And hopefully he can step into that role and be the right center back that this team needs now.
Yeah, and I was going to give my thoughts before Tommy came on, but some of the sentiment around social media was that maybe the result kind of flattered Atlanta United just a little bit. I mean, neither team was particularly tidy with the football, throughout the night, especially Atlanta United in the first portion of the second half. I think, and something else Brad talked about in the locker room, you say, I don't know if it was better than the win against New England, and I'd agree with him. I feel like New England felt like they had a little bit of a firmer hold on the match than they did against Orlando. And I said this on the Spaces a few nights back. I don't know if they win this game, guys, last year. I don't know if they have the mentality to really buckle down and get the result and get them 3 points at home. Gallese, there are a few states where he was just otherworldly, and I think maybe last year's team. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's why they call it the octopus, right? El Pulpo. But I think that's would have maybe deflated the team just a little bit last year. And I know some of the sentiment around the team was, we don't want to talk about last year. We want to talk about this year. But maybe last year's team kind of gets demotivated by that. And I thought that second goal by Giacomakis was super key and ultimately gave some semblance of control of the match. Granted, it wasn't over, but it was still 2-0. But at the same time, you have that cushion, you have that security blanket over you where you're not having to grip as much. You're not having to kind of worry that, oh my gosh, we're up 1-0. We don't want to blow it. 2-0, you have a little bit more leeway. And it's not to say 2-0 leads aren't insurmountable, because they very much are not insurmountable, but 2-0 is much better than 1-0. I mean, simple math, but kind of my 2 cents. I feel like we're kind of along the same wavelengths based on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a weird one. It's just a weird one. And the thing is we can talk about how odd and off it felt, but you still got a clean sheet and a win. And credit where it's due. Front office, Pineda, you and the players. But that was a big focus, was the right defense, the right defensive players, but then also the mindset. You have a game that's not going your way, and you're able to pull out a win. Now, granted, it's at home. Excuse me. So you have the fans behind you, but you
fight through it.
I'm dying over here. Sorry. You have the fans behind you. So, dude, this is just going to be one of those episodes.
Fight through it. You're doing good.
yeah. We keep going. I'm going to go run a mile after this. But you had the fans behind you. Can you do this away, right? Can you go away and have the same kind of mindset? And you're going to see some of that, I think, this weekend against Toronto, but it's a little bit of an apples and oranges thing because you're missing so many players, right? All right.
Yeah.
Clear my throat again off camera.
You're doing good.
Yeah, you're missing 7 players.
Fight through it.
So
yeah.
it's pretty significant. Stian Gregerson obviously out with a meniscus injury. We still don't know how long he's going to be out. We just know that he's not available for Saturday. Don't expect him back next week either. Meniscus, if it's a tear, we're talking about months. If it's like something more minor, I would probably bet on like at least 3 weeks, 3-4 weeks. This is just like quick, like doctor by any means. And then you have 6 players on international duty: Yorgos Giacomakis, Thiago Almada, Bartosz Slish, Caleb Wiley, Luis Abram, and Jay Fortune. That's 4 starters. And your other center back. So, yeah. So you're forced to play your only other 2 center backs in this game, which are Derek Williams and Noah Cobb. But yeah, it's going to be a test of Atlanta United's depth. So I don't know how this is going to go. I'm not super optimistic. And Edgar, hi Edgar.
The McLevin comment.
It's just my name now. Going to get a legal change.
So Henry McLevin Higuita.
So Dan bringing up a comment here. Have we started a GoFundMe to get Tiare a helmet? So it's a great transition into the next little bit. But yes, Jamal Tiare has suffered 2 concussions since he's been in Atlanta United. He's going to be your guy, your backup striker. But there's more. We got another backup striker today, Daniel Rios from Chivas. So news is still pretty fresh. It came out at 2, officially at 2. What do y'all think overall? Just what are your initial thoughts?
I think it's a good move. I think you have to have the proper expectations of it. He's not going to be a guy that's obviously going to score 10 goals for you. He never was that really in MLS. he's a good backup option. I think the good thing is that it's a loan, A, and then B, he doesn't take him an international slot. He got his green card when he was with Nashville, I believe in 2020. So that's a big thing, or a big key in this move too. Plus, he knows MLS. He knows the Derby. He knows Atlanta United. He's played against Atlanta United several times, so he knows what this Derby is like. He knows what this atmosphere is like. Granted, it's going to be different being with the team as a player versus as an opponent, but it's a good signing for what it is, and what it is, is some depth. Carlos mentioned it, at the beginning of the season. That's something that they wanted to look at, a third striker, and Rios is it. Really low risk proposition because you also have TRA in that spot as well. So they kind of, in that situation, you kind of fight it out just a little bit on the training ground to see who kind of gets that slot, right behind Yakimakis. Now, I don't know if he'll be available on Saturday. I'm going to venture to say no because of his transfer certificate. All the last minute paperwork needs to be done. So I'm gonna venture to say no, he won't be available. But yeah, again, you have TRA there, and hopefully TRA gives a good account of himself. But outside of that, you do have Rios on your roster as well. So I like it. It's a good signing. I do want to add too, because someone's asking about in the chat, did he play with Dax? He did play with Dax, so I imagine that maybe Dax had a little bit of a say in the decision to bring Daniel Rios over, so they have that familiarity with each other. So that's another good thing to look at. So yeah, I like it. Good move for Lady United for what it is.
Henry, what you got?
Yeah, so they were putting some pictures on Atlanta United's Twitter of him, already training, doing stuff on the training ground. I'm optimistic that because it is the fact that they announced it this week, I'm hoping that the idea is like the timing of it is so that he could be the backup striker for this Toronto game on Saturday. I think it's a good signing. You needed depth at the position. You only had GG and TRA. TRA, who is susceptible to concussions. Yakimakis, who has had his injury concerns at times, and also his call-ups. He's if things go well for him in this window, he'll be off to the Euros in the summer with Greece. So that is something that Atlanta United will have to prepare for, because you're going to have several games, probably depending on how far Greece make it, where you won't have Yakimakis. And so you need to have these options at that position. I think it's good that they're adding also some competition for TRA. I think it'll push ultimately TRA to do a bit more. We haven't seen him score yet in MLS. We haven't really seen him do much of that. Then again, we also haven't seen him get a whole lot of minutes. But I think he's a proven goal scorer in MLS, already with two teams, Nashville and Charlotte, 12 goals, 2 assists, and 57 appearances. Just kind of looking at his highlights, he seems to kind of have kind of a bit of flair, kind of what in Spanish we call like gambeta, where he can dribble a bit, use his feet well, and then get shots away. So he looks like a good option up top for those games. And yeah, I like it. Also a budget-friendly move. I don't think they had to spend a whole lot to get him. But yeah, I think it's a good signing. So
before Tyler goes, who has the bigger impact on Atlanta United? Miguel Berry or Daniel Rios? Just say the name. You don't have to go too deep into it, but just say who you think. I say Rios.
Rios, 100%.
Tyler.
Yeah, Rios. I mean, you got to remember the thing. We joke around, right? But you have to remember that Tommy.
Tommy is ready to fight me over the chat. I knew that was coming, but carry on.
You got to remember
what his answer is to that question.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
Nothing against Barry, right? But Barry was brought in very, very last minute. And I think people tend to forget that. I don't know that Miguel Berry was ever styled to fit this team. I really don't. And look, he'll always have that one banger. And then the team went and blew it right after. And it sucks. But I do think Rios, I mean, yeah, he's proven with a couple of teams in this league. And then before that as well. And then, of course, he went back to Mexico. He's not going to just roll over, though, and let Jamal Tiare be the guy. I think, yes, I mean, right now he's coming in as the third striker. Cool. But you have competition in this team right now. I mean, we talk about it with Brad Guzan and Josh Cohen all the time at the goalkeeper spot. Atlanta United since 2017 has needed competition at the second string for striker. I mean, of course, you had Tito doing his thing, but I mean, it's just you've never had that guy. You never had the guy that can be there and make a big difference whenever your star is out, and that's just where it's at. But the front office is making, I think, the right moves to try to get the right guys.
Right.
And you go back to what Carlos said before the season started. They were looking at a backup striker. That was one of the options, one of the positions that they were looking at, and who knows if this was the name that popped up back then and it's just taking a minute to get the loan approved or whatever. But you've got a guy that on paper should be able to be a serviceable, solid option. And you're going to need him. You're going to need him. I mean, if anything, you're going to need him. Copa America, obviously. I mean, you got plenty of time. He's going to get chances. So I'm really curious. I'm excited just to know that, God forbid, Jamal Tiare suffers another concussion. Like, you actually have somebody, because there really isn't another of a similar kind of cloth 9 in this club right now that could go up and play, because the twos doesn't really have one either.
Can't believe that Tito scored 13 goals for Atlanta United in 2017.
That's crazy.
It's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. But then again, he wasn't the striker by trade. He was a winger, but
yeah.
Still got it done. Still got it done. So
I like
the move.
Sorry,
I like the move.
You've doomed us, Tyler.
Yeah.
Now.
Be careful.
It's a 5-second rule.
Please say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got it in time.
Be careful what you say about these players. It might happen.
All right. Well, I mean, and that's really it, right? I mean, any final thoughts on Daniel Rios, or has it all been said? I mean, it's new. It just happened. But anything else you want to add?
Vamos.
There you go.
Let's see him play before we fuss about him. Like, that's my thing. We can always come to our kind of like, I guess, prior judgment, but ultimately you got to see how he plays with the other players around him, because one thing is what the player brings, and the other thing is how he does with the group that he's playing with. So we'll see. I hope we can see him on Saturday.
Yeah.
So Ariel asking, is this the first step of the front office investing in our depth? I don't think it's the first step. I think the steps have already
been happening.
Yeah. But at this position, this is the next investment. I mean, Jamal Tiare was one that you needed, right? Because he got brought in when you had a backup striker. They didn't wait until they needed another one to bring him in. And then Miguel Berry leaves, and then Jamal gets kind of pushed up the chart, and then they just replaced that position. And so I think the front office has been doing it well since Lagerwey got here, personally.
Yeah, I mean, it's already been in place. This is just another step in that improving of the team in key areas. So,
so Bungle saying in the chat, Tito ran like Luigi.
Yeah.
I just the mental images now.
Right.
Brian saying, I think they see Jamal as not the striker we need. I don't know.
No, I don't know about that though.
Don't
I don't know about that.
Opportunities yet, personally.
Yeah, I don't know about that. It's just
more
depth.
options.
Yeah, more options. Exactly.
And the competition.
Yeah.
I think the competition is another element like that. Like they will now push each other, kind of like the Cohen signing for Gazan.
Exactly.
Like it'll push both of them to compete for that first spot behind Gigi, right? So, yeah, it's just that. I don't think it's necessarily them giving up on TRA quite yet.
Yeah. Again, well, hopefully he's available on Sunday, if not, or Saturday, if not, no big deal. I mean, he'll really be available against Chicago next game.
Yeah.
Next home game, I should say.
All right. So we don't need to spend a lot of time on this, but we just got to hit on it real quick because I'm a sicko and it's one of my favorite times of the year. Open Cup season, baby. And you had some kind of crazy games last night. MLS
Cup
Next Pro
sets.
Yeah, 0-3 MLS Next Pro last night. Vermont Green
Go figure.
Made history, 4-3 win. We got some games going on now.
Game.
That was a wild game, yeah.
Right Cameron now, Lancaster, by the way. Sorry to interrupt. Cameron Lancaster, the former Louisville City man with Lexington SC now. Unfortunately, his team on the losing end of that 4-3 scoreline. But Vermont Green, their first forward to the U.S. Open Cup, the new club.
Yep.
So
and good to see them get that victory about it this morning.
Yeah, Bernie Sanders, exactly.
So I want to get y'all's thoughts real quick. But right now, I mean, if you're watching us. Hopefully, you're watching us. Maybe you have an Open Cup game in the background. Richmond Kickers 1-0 over Christos FC. Knoxville over Asheville City 1-0 in the 22nd. Frenzy and Club de Leon 2-0, 35th minute. SC United Greenville Triumph 0-0, and Red Bulls 2 and Hudson Valley Hammers. I love that name. 0-0 in the 8th minute.
This was supposed to be, as we're recording right now, Apotheos was supposed to play Georgia Lions at Silverbacks Park here in Atlanta. That's a whole thing that I'm sure everyone's familiar with, but long story short, Georgia Lions weren't able to fill the team. So Apotheos to the second round via forfeit. So magic of the cup. But you're supposed to be covering that, Tyler, but the magic of the cup, but sometimes these are the situations that you deal with lower division teams. So pretty unfortunate to hear that happen with Georgia Lions. So Apotheos again moving on via forfeit. Tormenta won. They defeated the amateur team they were playing on Tuesday night, and then some other matches as we're recording later the night on Wednesday. But then tomorrow, Thursday, Crown Legacy playing, Chattanooga Riddles playing. So some of the several teams that are playing around the Southeast. So definitely check it out. I mean, some people don't like it. Some people think it's a waste of time, but no, we love the U.S. Open Cup around here. They'll always get a good mention. So may the best team win.
Did we lose Tyler?
Yeah, we lost Tyler, unfortunately. Yeah, he's having some internet issues, so we'll carry on the two of us. Henry and Sydney. Have you been watching the U.S. Open Cup, by the way?
I have. I was watching, actually, the Vermont versus Lexington game last night. It was crazy. Vermont at one point was leading 4-1.
Yeah.
Tyler is giving a yellow card
to the internet.
Us or the internet? Or
freaking internet.
Yeah. Welcome back.
Carry on.
But no, that game was absolutely wild. The crowd was into it. It was packed. That many people. Freaking Lexington came back. It was 4-3 at one point with like 10 minutes to go. I was like, oh gosh, this is getting good. There were the fourth official didn't have an LED board, so everyone was guessing at how much stoppage time. There were 2 fake final whistles. That flares in the crowd. No, it was awesome.
Cup magic.
I wish I could have been there in person. The sphere looked amazing, and I've covered some some like early stage Open Cup games for the Cup.us, where it was just like a high school field and a few like parents and friends yelling at the ref or whatever. And it's just like different environments that you see. It's kind of what makes the tournament so special. So yeah, it's really nice. And yeah, best of luck to all of these clubs, because it's a really cool tournament, and hopefully they can go far. Especially what's the club, El Farolito, named after like the burrito joint.
Yeah,
exactly. San Francisco. Yeah, that's fun.
Good luck to them. When are we going to start Waffle House United here in Atlanta?
That would be amazing. Shout out to Brian in the chat, who's probably listening right now. I also.
Oh yeah.
The their supporters group for El Farolito is called the Burrito Bravas.
Love it. Real quick too, and before we move on, so by the time this goes out via podcast, Capo FC, I think it is, which is amateur side, I believe. They play the Des Moines Menace out of USL League 2. And Sasha Kleshton will be suiting up for the Des Moines Menace. That match being played out in LA.
Friend of the show, by the way.
Yeah, friend of the show, Sasha Kleshton. So crazy scenes happening in the US Open Cup thus far, and it's only just begun. It's round 1. And you don't get this in the FA Cup, like burrito joints clubs.
Unless it's a 100-year-old burrito.
Fourth division side, exactly. But yeah, good
they
stuff.
They may have history. We have personality, okay?
Right, exactly. Exactly. So, yeah, US Open Cup underway, only just begun. The first round proper underway. So, we want to give it its just due.
Yeah. All right. So, we have a little bit still before Callum hops on with us and chats, but we have another game to talk about. Second road game of the year up in Toronto. Talked about it a little bit with Tommy earlier, but what do you expect out of this one? You don't have to give your predictions yet, but what do you expect in terms of just everything related to how Atlanta rolls out, how their attitude is, how their personality is? Henry, I'm gonna put you on the spot this time. What you got?
So kind of judging from what we've seen before when several players are out for Atlanta United, Gonzalo Pineda doesn't really like to change the style too much. He still likes a pretty high pressing, a high, like attacking, high energy kind of team. So I continue that. You can't really like sit back too much, especially not when you're missing your arguably like your best center back at the moment. So because if you do that, you're just asking for them to score, especially with all the talent that they have, and losing Gregerson, particularly as the right center back, is going to harm this team a lot, because a lot of Toronto's firepower comes down their left side with Jaquil Marshall-Ruddy and Lorenzo Insigne. So Noah Cobb is really going to be, trial by fire here. It's going to be tough, because he's going to have to go up against some very talented players. I'm expecting it to be a very back and forth game still. I don't expect Toronto to be ultra dominant in any sense. They have players that are going to be missing as well. Jonathan Osorio out with a hip injury. Davy Flores got called up by Honduras. Nixion Gomez with a wrist injury. Sean Johnson, their starting goalkeeper, out. Richie Larea is going to be out for months now. That was announced, I believe, last week. So I feel like it'll be a bit more even. I think we're kind of overreacting a little bit. I don't expect Atlanta to be as dominant as they were against, say, New England, but I do expect it to be a game where they'll have attacking chances. I think Atlanta has a goal in this game, because you still have Saba, you still have Shande, and I think they could fashion something out on their own. So yeah, we'll but I'm I'll just go ahead and give you my prediction. I think I gave it earlier. Just a 2-1 Toronto win.
That's giving Toronto a lot of credit. I'm going to say you're wrong, but Toronto scored 3 goals in its first 3 matches. I'm getting a yellow card. No, it's more about Toronto than it is anybody else. Toronto, they've looked re-energized under John Herdman. Give him credit for what he's done thus far. Still, it's game 4, but they've captured more points through their first 4 matches, I think, than they did last year. And they're on 4 points or 7 points, I beg your pardon, through 4 matches, which feels like better than they did last year. Not golden, the wooden spoon team last year. Yeah. And I was hearing Kayla and Kyle talk about MLS 360. Adrian, he was there too, but they were talking about John Herdman and how he has the reputation of fixing things. She was talking about when he was hired to the Canadian women's team and the work he did with them, and then got hired from the men's team, and just how they fared in CONCACAF with him at the helm and qualifying them for the World Cup. So this is a good coach, a very good coach with very strong credentials. Does it translate to the team level in MLS? That remains to be seen. But his reputation certainly does precede him, and already you can see sort of the effects he's having on the team early on. So, again, does that carry over in a club setting where you have to be a little bit more hands-on on a day-to-day basis rather than planning for maybe 1 or 2 matches every few months? You're dealing with a match every week for like 40 weeks out of the season or something like that. How does that translate? And is he going to be able to, have the same effect he had on both of Canada's senior programs? I think that question still remains to be answered. Ask me at the end of the season. Ask TFC fans at the end of the season how that works. But I don't know if there'll be that many goals in it, mainly because of the personnel missing on both sides, but maybe because Toronto haven't had that razor's edge in the attack that Atlanta may have. So kind of my early 2 cents here. I'll throw my prediction out, heck, because Henry did. I say 1-1. I say they draw 1-1.
I think you take any points you get out of this game.
Yeah, a draw would be fantastic, especially coming back home. With Chicago waiting in the wings. In Chicago, we know what do we know about Chicago, right? Their struggles have been very well documented at this point.
I think the thing that surprises me about Toronto the most is that they didn't really seem to have changed their roster a whole lot from last season. I mean, it's mostly kind of the same group of players. After like a few weeks into the season, they added Matty Longstaff from Newcastle, which he got an assist, I believe, in the last game. So that was cool, and he's got quality, obviously, coming from Newcastle. So I'm interested to see kind of how far this Herdman effect goes. And yeah, I think check in next time when Toronto visits the Bens, and we'll see how they're doing and if this game is a bit more
right,
a bit more with Atlanta having its full squad and Toronto having.
I remember one year they lost to Toronto, 2018 at BMO Field. I was actually there, and you don't know what happened that year. So
that's true. That's true. I also remember 2019. I think it was Toronto, right, where everybody was leaving the stadium, and Atlanta won a penalty, and then Pity Martinez missed the penalty in literally the very last kick of the game.
Yeah,
I think that was Toronto. And I just, I was on with the Toronto Till I Die podcast yesterday, and we were kind of bringing up some of those moments. And like, yeah, this is not a rivalry, but there's been some interesting moments between Atlanta and Toronto, and both ways. Like, and I think there's a respect there between Atlanta fans and Toronto fans, and it's not to the degree. Yeah, Dan, I wasn't going to mention it, but the Eastern Conference freaking final. But to that point, there's been plenty of good games between these two teams, and you have, speaking to this one, you have a group of younger guys who really, really are hungry and have the opportunity to show what they're about. Ronald Hernandez at the training ground yesterday was talking about, how he's had that type of conversation with guys like Noah Cobb. Like, they're hungry. Like, this is your chance to go improve yourself. And the mindset's there. And now you just got to go and lay it out all on the field. And I do think this team is set up much better than they were this time last year in terms of,
Agreed.
Where the depth is and what they could potentially pull off. That's not to say this is going to be easy in any way. It's going away in MLS with your prime starting 11 is never easy for whatever reason that nobody can put their finger on. Even more so now.
Yeah.
You've got so many players out, but I'm oddly optimistic about this game. And I know everybody's gonna be like, oh, but you're always optimistic.
How optimistic are you, by the way?
You always choose them to win 2-1 Atlanta. That's how optimistic I am. I don't know where it's coming from, but that's where I'm at.
Your mouth to God's ears.
Yeah. They've won, by the way, I was checking to see how many away matches they've won since 2022. They've won 5 times away from Mercedes-Benz Stadium since 2022. I mean, that's just. I mean, this team just needs to learn to win away from Mercedes-Benz Stadium. And
who is that yellow for?
That terrible stat he just threw up.
No, no. This team though just needs to learn to win away from Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and Pineda said it. They have to get away wins, plain and simple. Because you could, let's say you have a good mix of wins and draws. So you win like 13 games at home, and you draw 4. So that's 17 games, 39, 43 points at home, but you win 3 times on the road, and maybe lose or draw the rest. So you're leaving so many points on the road, and valuable points too. I mean, if you flip some of the results, guys, from last year on the road, not just talking about the draws, but the losses, obviously. Not just talking about the losses, but the draws. You flip some of those results into 3 points, this team is in a much better position in 2023. And I don't know if it's just the mentality. I don't know if they just feed so much off of the Mercedes-Benz Stadium crowd that they don't know how to cope away from it. I just don't know what it is. This team just can't win on the road for whatever reason. And 5 wins away from Mercedes-Benz Stadium in the last 2+ seasons isn't a formula for success, isn't a formula for winning MLS Cup or the Supporters Shield. I have to go back and see, out of the Supporters Shield winners, out of the MLS Cup winners in the past, 5-6 years, throwing out COVID in 2020, what are those teams' away records look like? In fact, I'll just go real quick. Cincinnati, they won 7 times away from TQL. Columbus, a little bit rougher. They won 4 times away from Laura.com field. Orlando won 9 times away. Montreal, 2022, 11 wins away. Philly, 2022, won the Shield, 7 wins away, and so on and so forth. It's just so critical to get a win away from your home ground. You just have to do it. And Dan saying in the chat, they won 10 away games, which proves my point right there. They didn't win against TFC, but that's besides the point. But yeah, they won 10 times away from home in 2018, and they won MLS Cup. So just so important, whatever it is. I don't know what it is. Again, the mindset has to change. They'll be shorthanded severely against Toronto. So maybe you give them a little bit of rope there, but get a result at the very least and give yourself half a chance to win this game. Come back home and take care of business against Chicago when you have presumably everybody back except Gregerson. And yeah, again, give yourself half a chance and keep your season going. You had a letdown in Columbus to start the year. Take that out of your mind. This is a new game,
That was
new
a preseason
opponent.
match. I don't know what you're talking about.
Right? It may as well have been.
Yeah, it felt like a preseason match. But, I mean, yeah, like, we've asked Bradley Wright Phillips on this show. We've asked Sasha Question on this show.
Yeah.
Nobody has an answer to why it is so difficult to win in MLS, because you can throw it up to the travel. You can throw it up to, I don't know, the travel. I don't really, again, there's really nothing that should say it should be this bad. But yeah, the successful teams find a way to overcome it. My optimism comes from things that have been said that were going to be changed this year. It's early, but they've been changed so far. Now I get that we're about to go into a match where 6 of your guys aren't there, but the mindset is a big, big deal. The mindset is huge. You go up there knowing you're not going to lose. That's literally half the battle. And I know that sounds like such a cliche, but you have to have that mentality. The 2018 team had that mentality.
Yeah.
2019 team had that mentality. So, I mean, yeah, you squeak out 2, 3, 4 just points last year, and you're looking at a totally different postseason. So it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. I'm not trying to sunshine pump anybody, but 2-1, 2-1.
We'll see.
And part of that also, right before we get to our guest, to Callum Williams, part of that I think also is kind of what we were talking about earlier with the Orlando game. It's winning, closing out those games where perhaps you kind of dropped those points before, right? What happened when this team went to Toronto last year, right? They were winning 2-1, and then in stoppage time, literally the last minute, they concede a goal. You go to New York City and you score the 2-1 goal, and then right after. Chicago, you were winning, I don't know if it was 3-1 or 3-2 at some point, and then at the end, again, you concede and you drop points, and those points add up. So part of it is also kind of the composure to see those games through and know how to win. Even in situations where maybe you're not at your best, maybe you're not playing as well as you could, but you just know that you can grind out those results, see out the clock, and hold on to your leads, hold on to your points.
You guys know who's calling the match on Saturday, though, right? Tyler is on mute.
Look, I'm having so much
just struggling
between the internet.
Just struggling.
Man, it's been a rough day, y'all.
So,
it's been a rough day, but
just got to land the plane.
I know, just got to get there. Just got to know what other implement was similar to landing a plane. What? By the way, that goal from Kellen Acosta the other day, which Callum Williams had the chance to be there and see in person. Callum, what's going on?
Yeah, good evening, chaps. How are you doing?
Hey, Callum. Good to have you. Doing good.
Hey,
how are you?
I'm having many technical difficulties today, so I'm just going to throw that out there. So if I disappear today, it's just been one of those days.
Hey, we all have them. Don't worry about it. And it seems as though sometimes technical difficulties can also be identified as the Chicago wind as well, as you're insinuating.
Right.
So, yes, absolutely. No, it's a pleasure to be here, chaps. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
So just out of curiosity, just to get that one out of the way, what you called the match. And I think it's just been funny because this goal has been replayed over and over again. What was it like seeing that in person? What was it like seeing the Windy City do its thing?
I've seen a lot of very odd things in Major League Soccer over the years. That's certainly up there. I remember when Acosta hit the ball, and if you go back and look at it, you see the angle that he hits it at as well. He's actually facing to the right-hand side, so he wraps his foot around it to put the appropriate amount of spin on it, I'm assuming. Little did he know that the amount of backlift he also put on it wasn't really going to matter too much because of the assist that he would garner courtesy of the wind. So when the ball goes into the air, I'm thinking to myself from our commentary position, I'm thinking, well, it's probably going to land on the edge of the penalty area, and one of the centre halves will head it away, or somebody will win the ball in the air, it'll bounce around, and more than likely it'll be cleared away, and it'll be a 3-3 tie, which would have been somewhat of a fairer result, to be honest, because Montreal were extremely unfortunate not to come away with all 3 points in that game. But legitimately, when the ball's in mid-flight, we had this almighty gust of wind come through the stadium at that precise moment. My water went everywhere, my notes kind of went up in the air, and all of a sudden you see the ball legitimately move. For a split second, you just see it move. It's almost like it knuckled in the air. It's very strange. And poor old Jonathan Sirois just can do nothing about it. Is it his finest moment? Did he have the best game ever in Chicago? No. But I feel awfully sorry for him in that moment, because I can't imagine what it must be like looking up into the sky at that point and seeing this tiny little thing dropping down at you at however many miles an hour it was. And I would have no idea what to do. And so I really do feel slightly sorry for Sirois, because he's a tremendous goalkeeper, but that may haunt him for a little while, because there's several people suggesting it's his fault, and I have to disagree with that, because he was really up against the elements that day, and that was a perfect example of it. But look, I mean, huge win for Chicago Fire. I mean that, because they were in freefall. It was not going well for them. And the most telling thing about the spirit and belief, and perhaps the changing of culture at that football club over the course of the last few weeks, was when they scored the third goal. When Kuipers got his first goal for the Fire, made it 3-3. There would have been so many teams that would have said, "We did it, great. We came back from 3-1, and we got ourselves the equalising goal." Every single player sprinted back to the centre circle and into their own half, because they wanted to win. You could tell there was momentum behind them. And it was momentous for them, for sure. But you could tell there was something in the game as soon as Gutierrez had scored that penalty, and it was 3-2. I looked at my commentary partner, Callum Carr, and we kind of both had this look at each other saying, there's something in this game. My word, there was.
Yeah. No, and I was listening, I seen the highlights, and great call by you, great call by Kalen in that moment. But kind of going back to Chicago, who of course they'll be in Atlanta in a couple of weeks. So important for them to get that win, especially going into New England, a team that haven't won an MLS yet under Caleb Porter in the first 4 league matches. So definitely agree. Very important for them to get on the right side of things, going into maybe a match where the Reds are just very desperate and very, keen on getting a win to get their season back on the right track, right?
Yeah, it's a strange one for the Revs right now, isn't it? Because I certainly had them down as, on paper, one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference. And I still think that, by the way. I just think they may very well have a CONCACAF Champions Cup hangover, where the travel just really, really knocks some teams around. And but like I said, if you look at it on paper, especially that front unit with the protection of Kay and Polster in the centre of midfield, you've got Ian Harks available on the bench as well. But then if you look at the supporting cast for Brioni, the centre forward, Carlos Gil for me is probably still the best number 10 in Major League Soccer at the moment. The supporting cast are very, very good. Chankalai on his day, I saw him play in South America before he came to MLS. He's a very, very astute footballer. And Caleb Porter actually said to myself and Kalen, we did the Revs home opener at DC this year, the Revs opener at DC rather. And he said, I've never seen a player hit a football as hard as him. And so I get the feeling we'll see that at some stage. And we got a glimpse of how good he can be towards the tail end of last season when he came in from Racing Club. But the Revs, I think, on paper, have a tremendous roster. And I think they'll be absolutely fine. Just right now at the moment, they've lost a couple of games. They're doing a lot of travelling. But I think in a sort of similar vein to Chicago Fire, once they get that result, and maybe it's this Saturday, who knows? If they get that result, I think they'll turn a corner, and I think they'll genuinely be okay.
Yeah. We'll see what happens with them, because obviously tough going up there in Foxborough for the Revs. So kind of shifting back to Atlanta United, shifting back to Toronto. Toronto, we mentioned before you came on, under John Herdman, off to a decent start. I mean, a would have been clean last year, so I feel like the bar was kind of low for them at first, with Herdman coming in and kind of wanting to change the culture of that team. But then Atlanta United losing, of course, to Columbus to start the year, back-to-back wins at home against New England, who we just mentioned in Orlando. From your research of this upcoming match so far. What are your overall thoughts on how Atlanta and Toronto have started the season, just in your opinion?
Look, I think obviously it's been, I think at least from an attacking point of view, I think it's been rather satisfactory from an Atlanta United point of view, has it not? I mean, the game against New England Revolution certainly, I thought, ticked many a box.
Yeah.
Giacomakis that day, I think, was borderline unplayable, and it's obviously why the money was spent on bringing him in. I have friends overseas who are Celtic fans who didn't want the club to get rid of it, and I'm sure that's a sentence you've heard over your conversations since he arrived at the football club. But I'm just very, very interested to see what the approach is from Pineda in Toronto this weekend, because to lose 6 internationals, that is going to decimate any football club across the world. But particularly in this league where the salary cap is still sort of as potent as it is, I think this is obviously going to really affect Atlanta United. And I don't know Gonzalo Pineda very well. I'm due to speak to him tomorrow, but I am very interested to see what the approach is. It wouldn't surprise me at all if they do shift to a 4-3-3. And this is, I have no prior knowledge of this at all, chaps. This is me just purely speculating, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if the likes of Dax McCarthy and Derek Etienne came into the centre of midfield alongside Muyumba. I could see that absolutely, and obviously the signing today of Daniel Rios has potentially changed things. I'm not entirely sure if he's going to be available this weekend. My assumption is that he is, but you chaps may know better than me.
It'll be close because he's got a green card. He has everything he needs except for the transfer certificate. So it'll be kind of close.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, what it does more than anything, because I can't imagine he'd come in and start straight away. I think that'd be a bridge too far. But what it does is it does give Pineda and Atlanta United an option off the bench, because I've just spoken about the midfield, but actually the front line, my assumption is it'll be Silva on one side, Lobjanidze on the other, and Wolf as the central striker. And the reason I say that is because there's not much else. And this is the problem, isn't it? At one stage I was thinking to myself earlier today, does he give Nick Firmino a go? Obviously he did very well on his MLS debut last year, getting the goal against New York City FC, 16 goals, I believe, in 27 ATL2 appearances last season. So for me, he's more than earned the opportunity. Is this the right opportunity? I don't know. I personally don't think so, but is a debut ever really put in the right situation? I don't know, but look, I just think the amount of injuries and particularly the amount of call-ups on the international stage that Atlanta United have to deal with this weekend, I think it's going to be a very different look at Atlanta United, and that's okay. These parts of the season happen, and like I said, I don't know Pineda too well, but I do wonder if he looks at this game, changes the formation slightly, perhaps tinkers with the approach a little bit, and it's actually okay, given the momentum that TFC are on, despite the loss to New York City FC last week. Given that momentum that Toronto FC find themselves on, is Pineda okay, leaving BMO Field with a point? I don't know. I don't know him that well, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if we see those changes that I made.
Hey, Callum. Atlanta, typically when Almada is absent, especially last season, we saw them struggle a lot. That first game against Columbus was not great. 6-1 loss on the road. Not great. And now you're missing not just Almada, you're other players, 5 of whom are starters. So what in your opinion does Atlanta United need to do to go into this game and get a result?
Well, like I said, it wouldn't surprise me at all if there was a changing of formation. I think you would probably be best suited to have Dax McCarthy in the centre of midfield holding. I'm assuming Derek Etienne is available. I know he's not played this season, but if the club can get anywhere near the player that Columbus Crew had before he joined Atlanta United, I think that's a wonderful player to have come into situations like this. Do we see Edwin Mosquera come into the front three? I don't think so. Like I said, it wouldn't surprise me at all if it's Lobjanidze, Silva, and Wolf as the front three. But again, it just I would say that a lot of the attacking threat will obviously come from the wide areas, which is not necessarily foreign to Atlanta United. Toronto FC are an interesting one at the moment in the sense of obviously a lot goes through Lorenzo Insigne, as it should, given the money that he's on. But I'm just looking at my notes here, just from previous games, and Toronto FC over the course of the first couple of games, they've played a back three. I don't know if we're doing audio or video here, chaps, but you'll see the formation here from the game against NYCFC, and it's essentially a 3-5, a 3-4-3 essentially, with Bernardeschi operating as a right wing back, although I'm not entirely sure that's what the instructions are, and Marshall Rutty on the opposing side. I wonder when inevitably those two players in transition are asked to push on and be involved in the attack. I wonder, is there an opportunity there for Silva and for Lobjanidze to get in behind on a regular basis? And so that's where I would say that the best avenue for success is for Atlanta United against TFC is the wide areas, particularly as you mentioned. You're not going to get the creativity that you get from Thiago Almada on a regular basis, with all due respect, from the likes of Derek Etienne if he plays. You're just not. And so the wide areas, I think, are going to be crucial in this game for sure. And as I said, I just wonder when Marshall Rutty and Bernardeschi, if indeed they play, are asked to move forward in transition, and there's an almighty gap behind them because the three centre-halves are tight together. I wonder, can Lobjanidze and Silva benefit from that and get in behind on a regular basis?
Now, this Atlanta United team, right, they go out and they press high, and they have this kind of high energy normally when they have the full squad. Do you expect them to kind of roll this out, or do you think that they'll change that? I know you said you're going to talk with Gonzalo Pineda tomorrow, so you may not know, but at this moment, kind of what do you think?
Yeah, look, again, I think as so many games are in this league now, I think it'll be a game of transition regardless of who's on the field or not. And there will be times when I think Atlanta United will slow the game down, where Dax McCarthy will put his foot on the ball and say, let's just calm things down. Because I do think that whether it's McCarthy or whether it's Etienne or Mayumba, I suspect Mayumba will join in the attack when it's time to do so. But they'll be looking for the wide players. They'll be looking to get in behind those advanced wing backs of TFC. So I think it'll be end to end. I really think it's going to be free flowing. I think it's going to be a very typical Major League Soccer game, which is great. I think it's going to be entertaining. But the problem is, from an Atlanta perspective, is that I do think that apart from the analysis that I gave a little earlier on with regards to them getting in behind the wide areas, I suspect once again that this is a type of game that it'll be relatively tight, and it may come down to an individual moment of brilliance. Atlanta don't have those players available to them, those players that regularly contribute those moments of brilliance. And so Lorenzo Insigne, I know I'm not being particularly encyclopedic when I mention that name, but I mean, look, he's somebody that can change the game, whether it's cutting in from that left-hand side, as he often does, or combining with whoever the centre forward may be on Saturday. So Lorenzo Insigne is going to be critical. Toronto FC have themselves a couple of international absentees as well. Jonathan Osorio is injured as well, so I'm wondering what happens in the centre of their midfield as well. But TFC, given how they've started, I think will fancy themselves, particularly given how many international absences Atlanta United are having to deal with at the moment. I would say TFC are thinking to themselves, this is a rarity. This is a rare opportunity to get the better of Atlanta United, because a full strength Atlanta United coming into BMO Field, I think the approach would be very, very different.
Yeah.
So, in kind of piggybacking on that, we've been racking our brains for days now trying to figure out what Pineda could do in this one. And one name that hasn't been brought up yet is Jamal Tiare. Right now he's the backup to Giacomakis, yes, kind of ahead of Rios. So I think, you mentioned Tyler Wolff, and Tyler Wolff, he had a phenomenal season last year on the wings, and that's like you said, that's where Atlanta United right now has a lot of their strength is out wide. They have Saba, they've got Sean De Silva, they have Tyler Wolff, which, like you said, can also play up top as well. Nick Firmino potentially as that number 10 because you don't have another true number 10. But you know, we haven't seen a lot of Jamal Tiare, and what we have seen was the preseason, and he was solid. He was really good. He is a guy that definitely took the whole idea of dropping back and helping out the midfield, and then using his lanky legs to get in behind to a T. And so, what are your thoughts of a coach and being in the game for so long? Of a coach that is so set on sticking to, you know, something like a mindset of playing out of the back. How hard is it for a coach like that to then switch it up and say, hey, all things considered, let's be pragmatic. Let's look at the big guy up top. Let's look at the two guys out wide and just see if we can split these lines and nick one early.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's a great question, and it's an intriguing thought, really, isn't it, as well? Because Jamal Tiare, I think, is he's somewhat of a question mark right now, isn't he? We're not entirely sure what he can offer because we've not really seen him over 90 minutes, at least in an Atlanta United jersey. Was at times very difficult to play against with Le Havre. Obviously won promotion to Ligue 1 before he joined Atlanta United and did so very, very well. I wouldn't classify him as a goal scorer. But going back to your point, I wonder if at some stage, and it was interesting because I was thinking about this earlier on, if at some stage Tiare is brought on to offer that outlet when in need and to perhaps link up with, again, let's assume it's Lobjanitse and it's Silva. There's no reason to think otherwise, right? So it again depends on what Pineda wants to do. If he wants to go 3v3 with the three centre halves, that would make the most sense. So yeah, I mean, look, it's an interesting thought, isn't it? And having now thought about it, it's one that makes complete and utter sense. But I know he likes Tyler Wolff. He believes in him a lot. Pineda does. I only did, I think it was 2 or 3 Atlanta United games last year, and every single time Pineda mentioned Tyler Wolff and how much of a fan he is of him. So that's why I think he'll probably start. But your theory is an interesting one for sure, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if that's the way that they go. But it wouldn't surprise me if Jamal Tiare is somebody that comes off the bench and offers them the opportunity to go direct when perhaps they need to, when they're holding on to the lead or they're holding on to a draw. Whereas if you start Tiare and you bring on Tyler Wolff off the bench, I'm not sure Wolff. Yes, he can perhaps stretch a little more, but so can Tiare. So I understand what you're saying, and I don't necessarily disagree with it. But I think actually Tyler Wolff probably makes a little more sense from the get-go here. But it's an interesting thought, and we don't know, because if Pineda does want to go a completely different way, and as you sort of insinuate, go a little more direct in Toronto, there's nothing wrong with that, especially if they get a point or 3. It's great. Who cares? It'll be very interesting to see. But I do wonder, and again, look, let's also remember as well that there's the real possibility potentially that Danny Rios could be coming off the bench as well here. So we'll wait and see. But it's a fascinating tie, regardless of international absentees. It's I think it's one of the marquee games of the weekend, if I'm being totally honest. So very much looking forward to it, and looking forward to seeing what Atlanta United can do this year, because obviously last year was not the Atlanta United that many of us working in Major League Soccer knew over the last couple of years. So very, very interested to see the approach on the road for them, regardless of who they have available.
So, Callum, I got to ask you this. Actually, before that, let's look at MLS so far. What's been your biggest surprise in the league over the first few matches?
I mean, Toronto FC are going to be in that conversation for sure, because I expected them to improve, but I didn't think they would start this well. I actually said this on another podcast that I did before the start of the season. So not necessarily a surprise to me, but perhaps to a lot of other people, is the form of CF Montreal. And I know they lost at Chicago this past weekend, but prior to that, I thought they were sensational. And if you go and look at the off-season, they actually had, quietly, one of the best off-seasons in Major League Soccer, bringing in the players that they did. Matias Coquerel scored a bucket load of goals in Argentina. And he's very, very clinical when he's given the service, and it's clear he's going to get that this year. Signing Joseph Martinez, a player that you guys are more than familiar with. I don't care if this is Martinez coming off of a major injury or what have you. If he gets going, what a coup that could be for them, you know. So I think Montreal have surprised a lot of people, and so I'll go with that as the answer. Is how well Montreal have done. It's great to see Laurent Courtois doing so well in his first MLS job. Talking of changing cultures, as we sort of insinuated earlier on at Toronto, that's a football club that needed a change for sure. From everything I'm hearing, he's done exactly that. There's real accountability there as well. And we spoke to Samuel Piette, long-time Montreal central midfielder, last week, and he said, you know, they won in Miami, but they weren't necessarily pleased with the performance. He thought that they didn't possess the ball as much as they had planned to. They gave the ball away cheaply in certain areas. So, and they were desperately disappointed to lose the game in Chicago as well. So there's a real standard there now in Montreal. And I absolutely, if we go ahead sort of 25 games into the MLS season and CF Montreal are in the top 4 in the Eastern Conference, given what we've seen so far, I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Yeah, interesting to see them hire from that sort of Columbus coaching tree. Granted, he didn't coach on the first team, but he was coaching with their academy and their 2 sides. So interesting to see them go with that. So I have to ask you, from what I know about you coming in, you're an Aston Villa supporter. So I was looking at the Premier League standings, and of course, Arsenal, Liverpool, and City are 1, 2, and 3. So that's going to be pretty incredible next few or final few matches in the Premier League. But then Villa's they're sitting in 4th, up 3 points on Spurs, with Spurs having played one fewer match. Does Villa hold on to that 4th spot in your opinion? Do you think?
Do you know what, lads? I get very nervous talking about this because it's just I feel like the kid that has the toy that they shouldn't. It's just such a bizarre situation for us. During my lifetime, we have been nothing more than extremely mediocre, and I've become used to that. A life of mediocrity. It's been wonderful. It's been nice. It's been calm. There's been no drama, and here we are on the edge of the Champions League, which Aston Villa hasn't been in the Champions League. Aston Villa, I'll tell you how long they haven't been in the Champions League for. It wasn't even called the Champions League. It was called the European Cup in the 1980s. So that was the last time Villa were in the Champions League. And so the thought of having Champions League football at Villa Park, it makes my knees tremble. I can't even think of it, you know. I get very, very nervous. And just having European football back at Villa Park has been great. I don't care if it's the Europa Conference League. It's a tournament that obviously means a lot to people, and it's a pathway to greater good in Europe as well. So those nights, I have a ton of friends back home in Birmingham that still go to Villa on a regular basis, and they said that night against Ajax was one of the best nights they've had in a long, long time. And it really helped as well, given that a few days ago that day against Spurs was one of the worst days they've had in a long time. Yeah. So it really helped, and just to have those magical evenings, those magical European nights back at Villa Park, and it's a dream. It really is, and it's Ajax in the Europa Conference League, right? I mean that to a lot of people that doesn't mean anything, but to Aston Villa it does. It means everything, and you know, so to have us possibility of being in the Champions League again. I mean, I legitimately, I will shed a tear if we get back into the Champions League because. That football club has been through so many ups and downs. I actually commentated on the day that Aston Villa were essentially relegated from the Premier League when we lost 6-0 at home to Liverpool. And I remember being on the gantry commentating on the game. And I remember actually saying, even Carlo Torre scored this day, which was not meant to offend, but it was one of those days and one of those seasons. Demi Gard was in charge at the time, and it was a disaster. And I just remember saying those words and sort of wanting to throw the microphone at the directors and just, it was just an awful time for the football club. So to have been around the club in that sort of time, to then see where they are now. I mean, Unai Emery has completely changed the club and the trajectory of it. And I have a friend of mine who works on the backroom staff of the club, and he said what's amazing is whilst there was clearly respect for Steven Gerrard, given what he had done as a player, he says what's amazing now is when Unai Emery walks into the locker room, the conversation that you were having with whoever you were having it with stops. And everybody goes silent, and there is just instantly major respect, because he's been there and done that, and he's gotten the T-shirt. And I still can't believe he's our manager. When he was linked with Villa, I said to my dad, I said, "There's absolutely no way he's coming to Aston Villa. Why would he leave Villarreal, who had just gotten to the Champions League semi-finals the year before? Why would he come to Aston Villa?" And yet here he is. And so I owe my dad a beer for that, for sure. But I just, I can't believe it. It's dreamland right now. It really is. So I really hope that we get there, because it does feel. I'm not going to be melodramatic and say once in a lifetime opportunity, but it does feel it's almost like a generational opportunity. Right. And if Villa do get into the top four, it does feel as though there is this major chance to become almost what Tottenham have over the last sort of 10 years and be that regular top four challenger, do well in Europe, and be a consistent top 4 or 5 team. So the chance is there. So I just hope and pray that we take it. So we'll wait and see. But as you can tell, I'm very nervous about it for sure.
Yeah. Got to quickly shout out Chris Winkler, Director of Communications for Atlanta United, who's a Villa fan himself. So I'm sure he's kind of feeling the same things you are right now. Real quick before we go, so 2017, Atlanta United versus Minnesota United, that first match up at not Allianz, but the stadium before that. I know that was a national TV match, so you and Kendra weren't calling that match, if I'm not mistaken.
We did the game on the radio that day, yes.
Oh, so you were on the radio. Okay, so I figured you were. I figured you all were, but just what is your vantage point from the home announcer calling that? What is your vantage point? Especially having just been hired by the team not that long ago, not that long prior.
That was crazy. That was a crazy time in my life for sure. Having, as you mentioned, just come over from England, and getting used to Minnesota, particularly that time of year as well. We'd just done the opener in Portland where Minnesota had lost 5-1, and we kind of thought to ourselves, well, that wasn't a great way to start life in MLS. And then we thought to ourselves, well, it'd be okay, We knew there was going to be a big crowd at TCF Bank Stadium. We knew that. There is a real football culture in Minnesota because they've had football there for so long, going back to the Kicks in the 70s and 80s. It's been there for so long. So it was always going to work there, And I don't know if you chaps have been to Allianz, but it's a tremendous atmosphere. And I'm obviously going to be slightly biased, but I do think it's one of the best in Major League Soccer. I think it's wonderful. That day, though, in itself. Obviously, Atlanta United were in full flow that day, weren't they? And I think at that point, I think Atlanta United sets the tone of what you can do as an expansion team. It's crazy to think when you look back at that Atlanta United team, that was an expansion team. And that was a very, very good team. Obviously spearheaded by the dynamic duo of Almiron and Martinez at the time. They were absolutely wonderful. But to answer the question, my vantage point was a bit odd because it was snowing so heavily. we at times legitimately had to turn to the monitor. ESPN were doing the game that day. And I do remember the ball sort of making its way in towards, in between the lines, in between the Atlanta backline and central midfield. And I remember saying on the ball is Molino, maybe.
Possibly.
I couldn't see. Legitimately, it was so hard to see because the snow was just piling down. The game shouldn't have really been played, but anywhere else it's probably not. But in Minnesota, it's t-shirt weather. It was no problem at all. So no, look, I had a tremendous 6 years, which flew by as the voice of Minnesota United, and it's a club that's. I'm always going to look out for the results for sure. And, But we had some very good battles against Atlanta United, the Open Cup final as well, 2019. Had Michael Boxall who put the chance away in the I think 118th minute or whatever it was. Maybe we're talking about a different outcome, but again, look, in my opinion, Atlanta United have set the standard over the course of the last sort of 6 or 7 years as to what you can do, and Arthur Blank deserves credit for that. The whole franchise deserves credit. You guys, the supporters, have shown how to be supporters. You guys have shown how important supporters are. It's a tremendous example of what MLS is now and where MLS is going as well. And it was you guys. I think LAFC did a tremendous job. I will always mention, I think Minnesota did a wonderful job. And that sort of period when it was 2017 to sort of 2019 and the teams coming in, it was very much a new era in MLS, wasn't it? And we had seen some really, really good supporters groups over the course of the previous, I would say, 10 years, maybe even starting with Toronto FC. But then you mentioned Portland, Seattle, and a handful of others. Supporters are the key to the culture in this league. Yep. They always have been and they always will be. It's great to see what's going on the field. It's amazing, and I'm consistently asked by whether it's friends from the pub or whether it's a scout from Arsenal or a head coach in League One or the Championship over in the UK, or somebody that I know that works in Ligue 1. I'm continuously asked by people who are genuinely curious, what is it like? And I think now with the Apple TV deal, it's obviously been made global, so it's so much more easily accessible to people. It's just a tremendous time for Major League Soccer, for football in this country in general, with obviously Copa America this summer, the Club World Cup, which I know some people may very well frown upon, but I think from a North American vantage point, it's always meant a bit more. Given the fact that obviously the Sounders were the ones that got in most recently in the first ever, but having so many Liga MX teams get in over the years, and it always means a little bit more to be playing those big European teams. And so the Club World Cup is a big one, but then obviously the Men's World Cup coming in 26. I personally think that's when everything's going to change for the sport in this country. I really do. And so, but look, it's tremendous to see the sport where it is right now. And I mean this in all sincerity. It's people like yourselves that are doing podcasts like this, that are being as loud as you are on match day. It's the reason why the league continues to grow, and the reason why it will continue to grow. And so major kudos to the fans of every club in Major League Soccer, because without them, the league doesn't exist, and it certainly doesn't look anything like it does now. So very, very interested to see what the league looks like in a couple of years. And what the good thing is we've said that for the last couple of years. And every year it just gets bigger and better, bigger and better. Now there's eyeballs on the league from all four corners of the world. And who thought we'd ever say that? It's a great time for soccer in this country.
Yep.
So I think it's as amazing too, by the way. We have made it through just about this full interview. I want to be sensitive to your time. I think this is the first time in almost a calendar year we have not mentioned Lionel Messi. It's crazy. It's crazy.
You just did.
I know.
Yeah.
Set
Exactly.
the bar before I did it. Okay.
We were so close.
Tea or coffee in the cup?
Tea at the moment.
Okay.
Which is great. I staying true to my roots. Love a good cup of tea. But I actually, do you remember that stage of COVID? I'm sorry, I'm going to go there. But that stage of COVID where we weren't really sure what we could and couldn't do, and were we all going to have this, sort of doomsday type thing happen? Like, we weren't really sure what to do. We couldn't go outside, I actually then really got into coffee and started sampling and ordering coffees from all four corners of the world, and really, really got into coffee. So whenever I'm on the road, I always try and find a local coffee shop and just try and sample and just see what the best one is. So haven't done a game in Atlanta for a long time, actually. I think it's probably the Open Cup final was the last time I was in Atlanta for a game. So hoping that I get a game in Atlanta at some stage, because I'd love to sample some of the coffee shops and some of the breweries and whatnot, and maybe watch a Premier League game or a European game of some sort with you chaps before we all go over to Mercedes-Benz and watch an Atlanta United game.
Hey, let us know.
Yes, for sure, we'll do. It's like I said, it's just the fact that we're having this conversation and we're talking about all the football that we can watch before we go and watch more football. What a time! What a time to be alive! What a time to be a football fan in this country! It's just tremendous.
Absolutely, Callum. We appreciate it. We appreciate it.
Absolutely.
You and Ben, at Ben's, come say howdy. We'll be there. We'll be up in the press box. So just
wonderful.
We'll definitely go get a beer before though.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good, chaps. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me, and I'll speak to you soon.
See you.
Cheers, Callum. Thanks.
Cheers, chaps.
Good stuff. Good stuff, Callum.
He has such a good voice for broadcasting, by the way.
Really does.
Such a good voice.
I was just thinking that.
I was going to. I didn't want to like ambush him, but I was going to ask him if he wanted to like do this giveaway that we're about to do in his voice from, calling the game winner the other day with Chicago. I think that would be great. Because Kevin kind of did it. Kevin Egan kind of did it last year with one of the giveaways. But we know Kevin a little bit more. I don't want to ambush somebody.
Yeah,
like, hey, but I agree. Callum, great guy, great voice.
Yeah. Agreed.
You could do your impression of him.
No, don't do that.
I'm not dishonoring this man by trying.
No, but he for real has a great voice and a fantastic call, especially on that Kellen Acosta goal. He did really good job there. It was to him, and glad we could have him on today.
Yeah,
agreed.
100%. So,
you guys ready for the scarf giveaway? By the way,
yeah, that's the only thing left to do. We've kept you all here till now. Let me go get it.
This is the scarf giveaway. When's the spikes giveaway?
I got to get
Good
them.
Question.
It's kind of funny you say that. I have some. We should paint them gold. Give them away.
Yep.
But you have the scarf, Tyler, showing it off in all its glory.
That's one side. Hang on, let me flip it and not
Model
be
it.
that guy that's in the stands.
Right.
There we go.
Got
Got it
model
upside
it.
down.
Exactly.
Under the beard.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Shall we?
Here we go.
All right. Let's spin this wheel.
Let's do it.
See who wins.
Fortune.
May the odds
I feel
be
like
ever
Pet
in your
Sajak
favor.
or Ryan Seacrest.
Oh my God, it's so close.
Miranda Chamberlain.
Congrats.
Mirando on Instagram. We will be in touch. We'll be in touch.
Absolutely.
To get your information and get your scarf out to you. So congrats, Miranda. And thank you for entering. Thank you for everyone that entered. Really appreciate you. But Miranda Chamberlain, the scarf is yours.
Congrats. And remember, next time we do a giveaway, if you're on Patreon, you get extra.
That's right. Exactly.
Go join up.
So
And Tyler
exactly.
will personally run to your house to deliver it.
You're local? Hey, I'm trying to save money, save shipping. All right.
Right.
I'll make a delivery. I don't care.
Yeah, but congrats, Miranda. And we'll get your information and get the scarf out to you.
Absolutely. So, all right. Henry, final thought. Anything on Toronto?
Let's wait and see. I'm not as optimistic as you are, but a good game.
2-1, baby. Atlanta. Sydney, what you got?
Just give me a draw. Give me a draw. Just give me a draw.
Whatever. All right. Well, with that, guys, make sure you go check out scarvesandspikes.com. Thanks to Callum. Thank you, Henry, for hopping on and being Tommy's son/replacement or whatever.
Thanks to you all for watching and listening, by the way.
Yes, always appreciate the support. Obviously, we don't do this without y'all, so we appreciate it. Go support us, independent soccer coverage, patreon.com/scarvesandspikes. I see people in the chat talking about QT coffee. I'm sorry, but Racetrack is the gas station of choice nowadays.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah.
And I actually wasn't even thinking about the fact that my co-host works there.
It's free advertising for Racetrack.
Yeah. Sponsorship.
Right.
But no,
they're actually an Atlanta United sponsor beginning this year. So, but that's not why we said it. That's not why Tyler said it. But yeah,
I actually don't even think I realized that.
Accidental promo.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate y'all.
Appreciate it, guys. Y'all hit us up this weekend.
What?
Banter. I'm sorry, but
You were on mute for like 3 seconds.
Oh, it was?
Yeah.
Well, I'm
That threw
bantering
everything
now.
off.
Yeah. We hear you bantering now. Though.
Yeah, I'm bantering now. Henry, you know the more you shave, the more your beard will come in.
I try, but there's only so much I can do.
Shave every day.
Frenzy tied with Club Leon 2-2 in Open Cup.
Ooh.
Oh, hey, we're back. No. Yes, with a red card. Go watch the Open Cup, sickos.
Yes.
Do it.
Thanks, everyone.
Peace, guys.
Cheers.
Bye.